Let us continue with looking at mixed cost. We have looked at variable cost, we have looked at fixed cost, and we are now about to look at mixed cost. So, what is mixed cost all about? So, mixed cost are costs which do not go down to zero when activity level is zero. So, we're saying when there's activity level 0, that means it won't go down, right? What we are saying is, for example, if you're using the postpaid electricity bill, right? Even if you did not switch on any item in your house, you did not consume any amount of electricity in your house, a bill will still come in. A bill will still come in. It's called like as in you're renting their services, like maybe the meter, right? You pay the meter fee, right? So there's this fixed cost, right, which is there, and the other cost will be related to variable. It will vary to the amount of units or electricity that you have consumed during that month. So that's a mixed cost, an example of a mixed cost. So we're saying that it won't start from zero. Even if there's zero activities, the activity is basically the consumption of electricity. Even with the zero electricity, the bill will still come. You pay for it. That's a mixed cost. It's basically a combination of fixed element and variable element. So it's both fixed and variable. So you have combined these two. So they can also be known as semi-variable, half variable, or you can say half fixed. That means the other is variable. So the other name. So the graph of total mixed cost will be like this. So you have here units, units, right? So we have 1, 2, all activity, let's say activity or volume. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, you have cost here, maybe 10,000, 20, and so on. So the graph will be like this. The graph will be like that. It will not start at 0 when the activity is 0. It will start from a certain point. That's why this does not start from 0. It's a mixed. It's a combination of variable and fixed cost. So the fixed element is here, where it's starting from, because you're saying that that one will never change. It does not depend on the amount of activity being consumed. So this is the fixed element, and this is the variable element. So it's basically a combination. So your variable cost will not start from 0. It will start from somewhere like that. So that's how the graph of mixed is. So when we have a mixed cost in costing and budget control, we will have to actually separate them. We have to separate mixed and variable cost, mixed into variable and fixed costs. So we have a couple methods we can use to actually separate them. We have a scatter graph method. Scatter graph method. This is not the first time we have made it. If you have done TC3 mathematics, you have encountered the scatter graph method. So this method involves plotting on a graph a collection of related data relating to total cost and level of activity. A line of best fit is drawn by inspection and reading on this line. So what happens? What you do with a scatter graph, you have your graph here, you have activities here, and you have your cost here. So you start to plot. So you can have your data like that. It will basically be scattered. It won't form a certain pattern. Maybe you want to find it there. So that's how it will appear. when you plot the points on your graph. So what you have to do is to come up with a line of best fit. It's something to do with inspection. Where do you think is the middle point of this scattered data? So you can say, maybe I'm sure this is where it's supposed to be. So because this is based on inspection, it is not accurate or precise, because somebody can even draw his like that. So when you draw your scatter, what you do is you actually, let's erase this. So you have this. So what you do is, after you have drawn your line of best fit, you have to extrude it until it cuts the y-intercept. So where it cuts the y-intercept, right, that part will represent the fixed. That means you just go read the readings on where it cuts the y-axis, called the y-intercept. You go read, maybe that will be 50,000. That will be your fixed element. For you to find your variable, you have to find the gradient of this slope. So for you to find the gradient, you have to do all the mathematics to find gradient. Change in y over change in x. This one will not be examined. It's something that they can just ask you, how do you use scatter graph? So you are saying that it's a method that involves plotting a collection of data of total cost and activities. Now after that, coming up with a line of best fit by inspection and make the readings, right? After excluding them, extruding the line of best fit. That's how you use it. They won't examine this. The other one is regression analysis. So this one is more of a statistical method which involves determination of the least square regression line. So this is to do with statistics. So you come up with the least square regression line. So this is how it's supposed to be. So you come up with a line that you can use. So they might say that the line format is y is equal to mx plus. So that's how the line is supposed to be. So that's how your line format will be like. But this we covered in mathematics. They will not ask you in TC9 to solve using this method. They will never. They can just ask you to explain how you use. So these are the explanation. But the high and low is the one that is being used and is examinable in the exam. So for the high and low, this method uses the assumption that only the variable element changes in a semi-fixed cost. So variable cost can be estimated by change in the total cost between highest and lowest activity level. So what we are saying is, when using high and low, they will apply the assumption that in a mixed cost, the only part that will change because of activity level is the variable part. So for us to find the variable cost, you just have to find the difference between the activity levels, because you know that fixed element will remain fixed, but variable element will change with the change in activity level. So how do we use this method to separate fixed cost and mixed cost? So for example, we have an example here. The following data was collected for a company over a period of 5 months as follows. So we have period, volume, and total cost. So what you do with this one, you say that you go on the activity or volume and find the highest, which is 16,000, and the lowest, which is 11,000. Don't go to the cost, go to the what? Go to the volume or the activity. So you say, what is the highest activity? So you say high, and you put low here. So you put activity or volume and here you put cost. So what is the highest volume? So highest volume was 16,000. What is the lowest volume? Was 11,000. Right? What is the corresponding cost with the 16,000? 124. What is the corresponding cost to the 11,000? 99. So you subtract like that. So when you subtract here, it should give you 5,000. If you subtract here, it should give you 25,000. So when you find the difference, now you divide the 25, the cost, over 5,000. So you find 5. So this is 5 kwacha per unit, right? So per unit, it will be costing 5 kwacha. So this is the variable element. For you to find the fixed element, what you do is use this formula, right? Total cost is equal to variable cost, that's V, per unit times number of units. I'll call this M, right? Plus fixed cost. So this is variable cost per unit, and this is the activity level, right? So you can take any figure, either the high or the low. So for example, if I take the high, which is 124,000 as the total cost, the variable cost we have found that is 5 kwacha per unit. The activity level, which we found, which was 16,000, we'll put it there as 16,000. We don't know the fixed cost, so we'll have to multiply 5 times 16,000 to find 80,000. So we're saying that 80,000 plus 124. So for us to find the fixed cost, this has to pass the equal sign. So it'll be 124 minus 80,000 is equal to the fixed cost. So minus 124, the answer is 44. So the fixed cost is 44. So it did not matter which one I selected. Even if I selected the one with the low. So for example, if I took the low was 11,000 units and the total cost was 99. So we have total cost being 99,000 is equal to the variable cost we have found, that is 5. The units there is 11,000 plus fixed cost, right? So this times this will be 55,000 plus fixed cost is equal to 99. So when 55 crosses the line, it will be negative. So 99,000 minus fixed cost of minus 55 is equal to fixed cost, and the answer is 44. So the answer is still the same. So they might ask you a question that it's not asked there, but they might ask you to estimate something. Estimate. For example, if they asked you that, how much cost will be consumed if they produced 14,000. So there's no 14,000 here. For you to estimate, you have to use the same formula. You are saying TC is equal to the variable cost per unit times number of units, which is M, plus fixed cost. So we have found that the fixed cost is 44. So we'll put a 44 there. We have found the variable cost was 5. And the number of units that they have told us to find is 14,000. So we'll put there 14,000. So for us to estimate the total cost, we'll have to do that. So it's 14,000 times 5, which is 70,000, plus 44,000. So the total cost will be 44,000 plus 70,000, which is 114. So we have estimated a level of activity that was not on the data which was being given. So they might tell you to estimate. That's why on the learning objective, they told us to use to estimate the value of the total cost, right? Using the high and low. So that's how you can estimate. After you find the variable cost per unit, after you find the fixed cost, you can use this to estimate any level of activity, and you can find the total cost. So let us look at application of cost behavior. In which areas can we apply cost behavior? So we can apply cost behavior when we are talking about cost control. When we're talking about cost control, we're basically saying that we are trying to manage our cost. We don't want them to exceed a certain level of a limit, a benchmark. Maybe you can say that maybe we don't want our cost to be more than 50,000. So that's cost control, right? More than that, maybe if you go 55,000, you know that something is wrong. You have to analyze what went wrong. That's to do with cost control. So the knowledge of cost behavior will give us a benchmark to which actual cost incurred can be compared with budgeted. So cost behavior will actually help us in comparison between actual and budgeted. So the other thing is cost behavior can be used in budgeting. Because we know the behavior of cost. We know that variable costs change with level of activity. Fixed costs do not change. So we are able to come up with a good budget. Because if we know a variable cost per unit and we know a fixed cost, we can come up with any level of activity. As I told you, estimation. If we are to estimate the 14,000, right? If we produced 14,000, how much cost could cost? How much cost could we incur, right? We actually found a total cost. So because of knowledge of cost behavior, we are able to apply it in budgeting. Same as decision making. Knowledge of cost behavior is very important because fixed cost is not relevant for decision making. That you should know. Fixed cost is not relevant for decision making, while variable cost is relevant. What do I mean? I'll give the example right here so that when you come to decision making, it should be something that you're already familiar with. So, for example, you have a house, right? You have a family, have a house, right? If a relative wants to come in, right? Wants to come to visit, what you are worried about is not the rent. Rent is a fixed cost, right? You're not worried really about the rent because the rent won't change because this relation has come to visit. Because you have the space already, you can give them bedrooms and whatnot. What you are worried about are the variable cost. For example, food. You have to worry that. That means if this guy is coming in, we have to also consider to increase the food consumption. If this guy is coming in, that means electricity bill, water, we also have to increase. That's why we're saying what we are worried about if people are just are coming to visit is not the rent. We're worried about other costs like the variable cost, food, electricity, and so on, because those will change with the change in activity level. That's why we're saying fixed costs are not relevant for decision making. So if you know that that cost is a fixed cost, you won't be busy to include it in your won't be busy to include it in your process of decision making. But the variable costs are the ones that are relevant for decision making. So the knowledge of cost behavior is very important. So let us look at product and period cost. So when we're talking about product cost, we are talking about cost which is included in the cost of a product consists of prime cost and overhead. So we're saying that any cost that will be included in the cost of a product is called product cost. So it will consist of prime cost and overhead. We talked about prime cost, which the other name is prime cost. Other name is direct cost. So under prime cost, what we have under here, we have direct material, direct labor, and direct expenses. And we're talking about overheads, which are the indirect cost. Under here, we have indirect material, indirect labor, and indirect expenses. So these are the ones that are under overhead or indirect cost. So the formula for cost of a product is total cost is equal to prime cost PC plus overheads. So that will form the price of a product or product cost. Product cost is prime cost, all the direct materials or all the direct cost plus overheads. It's something that you just have to know, have an idea. That's the formula for product cost. So product cost, right, will only be included as an expense in the financial statement when you actually sell them. If you don't sell them, they won't be included as a cost in the financial statement. If you sell them, they are said to be expired. When they expired, they can be included as a cost of sales. That's why when we are doing our accounting, we say that revenue, right? We put them here, right? So we go cost of sales. So we start with opening inventory. We put them here. Purchases, we put them there. At the end, we less closing inventory. The moment we are removing the closing inventory, we are saying that the closing inventory, because they have not been sold yet, should not form part of the expense for that year. That's why we are saying that they are not supposed to be included as an expense. So these are not period cost, right? They're only gonna be included when they have actually been used. These are not period cost. While period cost, these are costs that are included in the financial statement in the same period they are incurred. So despite being consumed or not, if the cost has been incurred in that year, it will be shown as a period cost. Example of this is administrative cost, selling and distribution, etc. So we're saying that this cost will be included in the financial statement, right? In the year they are incurred. They are not carried forward. While for product cost, if you have a cost has not been expired or has not been used, right, will be carried forward in the next period. While period cost, they will be shown in the year they are incurred. That's why they are called period cost. So let us continue with classification by function, right? Classification by function. So we can have different functions. We have product cost, administrative cost, selling and distribution cost, research and development cost, financing cost. The names themselves actually explain the meanings. For example, product cost is cost incurred in making the product or services, right? Administrative cost costs related to running of the business. Selling and costs related to creation of demand and securing of orders. Research and development cost. These are costs related to the cost of searching for new and improved products. And financing costs. These are costs incurred to finance business, such as loan interest. So these are basically another classification of cost by function. So that is the end of the chapter, and we need to look at the end of chapter question so that we can appreciate whatever we have learned. So thank you.